2018 Board of Trustees. And if you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Please let the record show that we are all here. Kelly. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Everyone have a chance to look that over?
I would move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to announcements and communications. I do have one announcement. We do have a public meeting tomorrow night that everyone is invited to. It's the conceptual review plan of the new 11-mile Milford Park. And we do have a copy, I believe there's a copy on the back table of the conceptuals that's been worked on for quite some time. And we're going to open up a public meeting tomorrow that everyone's invited to maybe put in what they'd like to see on that park. And it's just something we'd like to do to get some input from the public. And we would sure appreciate anybody's show up and input.
What time, John?
7 o'clock. Yeah, 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
I have a
Go ahead.
couple items. I was just going to, 99 years ago today, the 19th Amendment was passed, which gave the women and others right to vote. Also, the online Oakland County Prosper magazine on May 31st posted a very nice story on our kite festival. And thanks to Jennifer Duncan for interviewing them, doing a very nice job. And as evidenced by the bases, a signal is being installed in front of Kroger's at 10 and John's.
I have one, July 9th on the right to vote. Just to remind everybody, if you have not registered to vote, or you have a high schooler or someone going off to college, they need to register to vote by July 9th to vote in the August primary.
Okay, one other thing I would like to really thank the Kite Fest volunteers. That Kite Fest was a major undertaking this weekend. It was 3 full days, actually 2.5, but it was stressful, I know, on a lot of the volunteers, and I know being that long, it was really hard on a lot of them. But it turned out really exceptional. Even with the rain, it turned out really exceptional, and there should be a big hand applause for all the volunteers. And John Bell, I'm going to tell you something. There's a guy right there that doesn't get enough credit for this Kite Fest, but it was his idea 10 years ago that brought this thing to fruition, and it really has turned out to be something in Lyon Township, and thank you for that, John. And thanks for all the volunteers. Thank you very much. Come on up, John, come on up.
Speech. First of all, I think you hit it right on the head when you talk about volunteers. If we had a calculator here and do some calculations, over 10 years, with the time volunteers spend, 35 minutes at 35 meetings, maybe 3 hours, times 10 years, times the minimum wage, you multiply that out, it's just slightly under $500,000 our volunteers give back to the community. That's one way of measuring it. Mm-hmm. The measure of success, by the way, in our kite festival is, were the kids happy? Did you see their faces? Did you see those eyes when they were out there flying the kites and being taught how to fly a kite right? Again, as you know, our community businesses provide all of the funding for all of that. So everything just ties together very nicely in our community. And Friday night, of course, was the very first 3-dayer. We got a little wet. But you know how old I am. I'm an old man. You should have seen me where that country western singer was on that stand. He was jumping around, I was jumping around with him. And you were too, Michelle. I saw you doing
It was a
it.
good time. I enjoyed him.
Music was just driving, wasn't it?
He was very good, very
Yeah.
entertaining.
Very well so.
Really liked it.
So let me just conclude by saying thank you all for help, for the possibility of being able to provide that entertainment for the kids in the park. Thanks again.
Thank you, John. Okay, anyone else have any announcements? Okay, seeing no one else coming up, let's move on to the call to the public. This is where you can come on up for 3 minutes and give your name and address and talk about anything you want that's non-agenda related.
How's everyone doing?
How you doing?
Pretty good. Summer's looking like it's pretty good for everybody. Tans are starting to show. Bid update happening on Patrick Grollo, Shady Creek Drive, 60772. Things have toned down a little bit, so we're starting to see less stuff coming in, less stuff going out. So I'm not sure if Mr. Snyder's doing something in the background, having conversations or what he's doing, but it does seem like less trash and less things for sale are coming into the neighborhood. Mother Nature has blessed us with a very nice bloom this year with leaves and everything else. So the 240-foot semi-trailers that I get to look at have kind of been hidden for a little bit. We do have a court case on Monday, the 11th. So I'm hoping that the judge reviews the images that Mr. Snyder's been taking. He takes those into account and he helps enforce some things. I think that's kind of what is going to happen, is the township decided to write the 2 citations on those in hopes that the judge sees the other evidence and says, please clean up your act. If that doesn't happen, then I would hope that the township would then further support by enforcing the other codes and ordinances. And if not, then we can discuss about having them rewritten, reworded, or removed from the township ordinance, which are 2 items that I'll be submitting on an amendment or an agenda item. I was unaware that you have to do it 2 weeks in advance. That information would be helpful if it's listed on the website on how to actually submit to be on the agenda. You just can't call up a couple days before and say, I'd like to be on it because I've been coming for the last 3 months. It doesn't work. So July, I will actually hopefully have an official agenda item for us to all discuss. So positive things, it seems to be going. People are doing things that are unbeknownst to us. I'd like to say thank you for that. And hopefully we get this closed out by the end of the month or end of this summer or however long it takes, because I'll keep coming. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else like to come up? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to reports. And before we get started on reports, I'd like to kind of just throw a little bit out at the board here for just a small discussion on the reports. Some of the reports that we have are kind of redundant, and they take up quite a bit of time in the beginning of the meeting. Now, if everyone here would like these reports to continue the way they are, I'd say that's okay, and it's not, if you don't want to discuss it at this meeting either, that's okay. But I think the two that are really important are the fire and the sheriff, because I'd like them to stand up in front, and if there's any questions from the public, it would be nice to have them talk. The others are just kind of redundant, and I would like to just know we can put this on an agenda next month if you'd like, and just continue this one the way it is, but I'd like you to have food for that a little bit if you want to continue it.
Are you talking about eliminating them or just moving them down in the agenda? Or?
No, eliminating the majority of them, unless somebody has something that's popped up that's not written in paperwork or put in the minutes out in the front, or, okay? So that being said, I won't keep that going. We can go ahead and we'll start with the DDA report.
Good evening, everyone. The DDA did not meet in May, so I have no report for our May meeting. But I will update you on a major project that we're focusing on. So we're in the process of revisiting the condition of the drains in the DDA, in particular the New Hudson drain. So if you recall, these drains were actually created back in the late 1800s. They were dug by shovel and hand, and they haven't really been addressed since then. The DDA did take some time to address a portion of the drain, which is from the New Hudson, or the the Huron Valley Gun Range all the way to Milford. But what we found over the last year is that there are significant improvements that need to be made. And what we're finding is the increase in developments in the industrial district in particular is having a direct effect on the level of runoff and stormwater volume into the drains. And this has caused an effect in the floodplain, and the floodplain has a direct effect on future development. So we've already addressed some of that small portion of the drain, but we will be assessing the needs of the entire drain, which actually runs from Grand River and Riley Road all the way down to Martindale. I know that Leslie's team has been working on taking an assessment of all of the culverts involved. We've already met with the Road Commission, with the Water Commission to address some of the serious issues on some of our culverts that are either undersized or ones that need to be repaired. So I just wanted to give you an update on that because that's something you're going to hear a lot more from us over the next few months. And then I just want to give you an update too on the website. So myself and Catherine met and we went through all the navigation. We call it the navigation stage. It's where you go through every single link and navigation on the website. And we've made our recommendations to revise, and they're in the process now of setting up those navigations and then tying all of our pages to it. So we're getting really, really close to seeing that early revision of the website so that we can go through it and start to actually click on those navigation keys and make sure that everything is working properly. So we set our timeframes around June. It looks like mid-June is when we should see the mock-up of the actual website, and then hopefully as soon as we can respond to them, we should be able to get it to go live by July. Would be a good time frame for us at this stage. So just want to give you an update on that. And that would conclude my report.
Thank you, Tina. Moving on to Chief, anything for the fire?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The concrete work has concluded for Station 2, so both stations are now complete. And take a look at it. It's pretty enormous at behind Station 2. So I don't know what else to say. Looks nice, though. The only other thing I wanted to bring up was when there's questions from the public, and I wanted to provide an opportunity for them to come and have coffee or meet. You know, there's questions about where our millage dollars go. And so I just throw out this little promotional, and it's Saturday, June 16th from 9 to 10:30. It's cleverly called Coffee with the Chief. And we're just trying to get it out to the HOA groups, putting it on Facebook. But if you want to see the equipment, the training tools that we've received, since the millage was passed, the rescues, the burn building, there's quite a bit that we can demonstrate. Plus, we'll provide tours if there's kids that come, and then just kind of a simple, informal Q&A with people that may have questions about how we operate, why do we bring an engine on a medical call. There just may be different questions. So this will be the first of more, assuming somebody shows up. But that's what we're counting on, is that we get a few people to show up. And so we'll continue to publicize it through the township website and also our marquee as well. Concludes
What time was that again?
9 a.m. to 10:30. All of you are welcome as well. And Saturday the 16th.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on, Lieutenant Venus.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm sure most of you are aware that after the last school shooting down in Texas, that South Lyon Schools asked for a deputy to be at Millennium and Centennial. So that's been going on since that, pretty much right. I think that shooting was on a Friday. That next Monday is when we had the deputy in there, which they are paying fully for. The deputy's in there on overtime, and that's been running really smooth. Working with South Lyon Schools is it's really nice to work with them. We all work really well with them, so that's been going good. We did have one incident, excuse me, in the middle school last week. We had a threat. I don't know, Sean, or if you see, did something go out on the school district? Yeah. We had a young man make a threat in the school, and another student told the teacher, and then it just went from there. So he's being dealt with in the juvenile system, and hopefully he's learned his lesson. the deputies have been participating in some of the safety towns at the Learning Center, at some of the daycares here this month, and that's typical for the end of the year, school year. They go in and do whatever the teachers and directors want them to do. So that's been going on. And then in the triannual report, which most of you probably have, I started to think of, I looked back to see when I started out here in 2007 as a substation commander. For the entire year of 2007, we had 3,363 calls for service. In the first quarter this year, we've had 4,586 calls.
Wow.
So that's the increase with the with all the new residents in the neighborhoods and such. And I believe there was 10 of us when I started here. Now there's 20. So with the increase came the more deputies, but the calls have certainly went up. But that's due to all the new traffic, or all the traffic, all the new businesses and neighborhoods. So other than that, that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Lieutenant. And on the Planning Commission, Patty?
Yes, we only had one planning commission meeting in May, and that was May 14th. We held 2 public hearings. One was AP 1818, it was setback encroachment provisions, and that was approved to go forward to the board. And we had AP 18-25, Planning Department application submittals, text amendment change, and that also was approved to move forward to the Township Board. I think you'll see those on your next month's agenda. Under old business, we had AP 18-20 Rainbow Child Care Center site plan. That's going to be the new facility where they're purchasing the Bank of America in the town center. And that was approved at what had been tabled back in April. Under new business, we had AP 17-18 Lion Preserve PD final review, formerly known as Huntsmore, and that's on our agenda tonight, and the Planning Commission recommended to approval to the Township Board. We had AP 1830 Huron Valley Outfitter Site Plan Amendment. That was tabled right at that board meeting by the applicant, so we had no discussion on that. And the last thing on our agenda was AP 18-33 deck setback encroachment provisions text amendment, and that was also recommended to the Township Board, which you should see in the future. And that concludes my report.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions about that? Moving on to the ZBA, anything? at the
We do
ZBA?
not have a meeting,
meeting.
and we will have one this month.
Great.
Very exciting times.
Exciting, yeah. Park Advisory Board.
You wanted to come up and speak. Robert.
Okay, so we went back and cleaned up. We had a lot of stagnant agenda items. We reviewed a couple of grants that John had sent over. Unfortunately, we weren't eligible for the skate park grant, but that goes on. We have the Recreation Master Plan agenda item coming up, so I won't talk about that. But other than that, we're continuing our reevaluation of the structure and mission of the board. And I don't know how much Michelle was able to share with any of you, but if any of you have any input on that, please let us know. And again, tomorrow, 7 o'clock here. Public input on the 11 Mile Park.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, Bob, DPW.
Thank you.
Exciting stuff.
We've been working on a lot of different things. Everything from standby generators at lift stations that you're starting to see show up. We decided to wait to do the sidewalk on Ray Street till after school lets out in about 2 weeks. And the other big thing that's occurred last week was the takeover of the water department, where we are now running our system. And all I can say is it's been an absolute joy working with the staff at Township Hall, from Ed and his crew to Leslie and John and Patty and Anthony. The building department, we have had meeting after meeting after meeting, and it's all coming together, and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to really supply something outstanding to our residents, so we're very excited about it. Ed will speak to it shortly, though. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. We are very excited about that, just so everyone knows. Okay, that concludes the report. So we're moving on to the approval of the
Planning?
agenda. Pardon me?
You have planning on the agenda.
Oh, they submitted theirs in the consent, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
consent,
it
yeah.
says here,
Yeah,
right?
I know it does,
Okay.
sorry about that.
All right.
Unless you want to say something, Patrick?
Yeah,
No, I think the report covers everything, and anything, follow-up questions you can ask anytime.
it's a long report. Okay, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Anybody want to add or delete anything here?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
I support.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. On to unfinished business. Our first piece of business is Mr. Kitson. A report on the water treatment plants being built.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know if you noticed, but all of us old guys come up with pen and paper, and that young bright kid over there, he just comes up with his iPhone and pulls his notes out. So different generations. So. As Bob said, we did the switch over Wednesday and Thursday of this past week. Took a lot of effort, a lot of coordination, and I'd just like to say ditto to what Bob was relaying. The whole crew pulled together, and appreciate Bob's efforts, and Anthony at Highland Treatment, and I had 3 crews up here, and we had to switch everything over, but we're up and running, and
We made it through the first weekend.
we made it through the first week. Yep, and I'm gonna have to knock wood on that one. So, but you know, things will run smoothly from here. We are on the AOP system now. We're off the Oakland County system. As we progress now, we'll modify our system. You know, the main goal originally was just to get everything talking to each other, which is what we accomplished. Now we'll add the bells and whistles to it, where Bob will be able to see on his computer screen the elevation of the water towers, and John will be able to see on his iPhone or his screen the elevation of the water towers, which pumps are running, and that type of thing. So all that's coming, and that will, as we progress over the next 60 days, that'll start to roll out. I forgot about Leslie. She wants to see it too, so she's going to get to see it. So, you know, the better, more eyes, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And that way, I won't have to lay awake at night and watch it. So these guys will be watching it for me. So, so that's the SCADA part of it. We're switched over. As you know, we're coming into summer season. You know, we ask for the township residents to be patient and preserve water as best they can over the next 2 or 3 months. The good Lord's given us a lot of rain here lately, but soon it will be dry, and everybody will want to sprinkle, and that'll put a huge demand on the system. And so, as has been the last 2 or 3 years in the summertime, it'll be a little tedious operating the existing plant during that summer season. But each day we get closer and closer to putting the new treatment plant online and a new water tower up. So that, you know, as those things progress, it will help alleviate that situation. Talking about the water tower, by the end of this week, the center jig will be in, and starting next week, you should be seeing a tower go up quite rapidly. Weather permitting, we could do 10 feet a day, okay? So it will appear in the horizon very quickly here, and it just takes a little more preparation. The end of this week, we'll we'll be prepared to start doing the forming and pouring. And of course, once we get the structure built, then the actual tower will be built on top of that, so, or the actual tank. So, okay, so that's what's going at the tower site. At Woodwind, like I say, we've had a lot of rain. It's kind of held us up a little bit here and there, but it's going well. It's well under construction. All the filters are laying there and been delivered and built and delivered. The aerator is setting in Pioneer right now, built and ready to be delivered. We just don't have room at the site, so we're leaving it there till we're ready to put it and install it. All the precast tank panels are built and ready for a base slab. We're preparing 2 base slabs right now. We should probably, I'm thinking next week we'll pour those 2 base slabs for those 2 for the clear well and the recycle tank. The detention tank will come later, but the recycle and the clear well will get poured. And then we'll start setting the panels there. Meanwhile, the footers will be dug on the building, and we'll start laying the footers for the building. And as soon as we get a floor there, then of course the mason will work on around the outside, and the plumbers will work on the inside, and you know, things will go fairly quickly. As things can. Not to say that it's going to be done tomorrow or anything. I don't want to set any small expectations here. We got a large project here. It's going to take a long time to do, but things are going very well, and I think we're in good shape. The brick samples have been chosen for the Woodwind building, so we'll order the brick on Wednesday, and the generator's being built as we speak. And that's about it. Any questions?
Sounds like things are moving.
Well, things are moving. Thank you. Have a
Thanks
good
a
day.
lot. Thanks a lot, Ed. Okay, moving on, consideration of the adoption to amend Oak Ridge Plan Development, and this is a final review. Do you want to talk about this a little bit? This is a final.
Sure.
Give a
And
summary?
I'll give a short summary. We have a letter of March 29th, 2018 that we did for the first reading, and nothing has changed with respect to the letter. At the April 2nd, 2018 board meeting, the first reading was adopted 4-3. The proposed development is 73 single-family homes on an 89.24 acre site. There are 2 points of entry on 10 Mile Road, and that's a loop road with 3 cul-de-sacs. And the open space plan indicates that there are 59.39 acres of open space and 45.08 if wetlands are excluded. The only change since the last meeting was the submittal of a final plan development agreement that's been reviewed by the township's attorney and the applicants and their attorney as well. So that is included with the packet. Our recommendation in our letter from March is the same, which was the recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve the final plan subject to 8 conditions. First, that although the proposed wetland fill areas are shown on sheets 3 and 4, they must be shown on sheet 2. The second is the extension of the sidewalk to include lot 11, including a crosswalk. Third, a masonry wall and fencing must be provided as stated in our letter. Fourth, a proposed timeline of development construction on all phases must be provided. Fifth, the evergreen trees along the east side of the site must be increased to 16 to 20 feet. Sixth, the landscape plan discrepancies noted in our letter must be adequately addressed. Seventh, the path on the plans must include the specifications and material. And eighth, the satisfactory completion and agreement on the plan development agreement. That summarizes our review letter, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Patrick? Leslie, do you have anything to add to this?
No, we have no outstanding issues.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Hi. I only have one.
Okay,
Will the,
the applicant come on out, just come out.
is this going to completely eliminate the lagoons at no expense to us?
Howard Fingerroot with MI Homes. Yes, so the lagoons that are part of the golf club, we're going to remove those and hook up the golf club to the township wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion on the final?
I have comments on the PD agreement, but no questions for the applicant.
Okay.
Since this was I guess, I've asked several questions over the past meetings, the conceptual, preliminary, and final site plan review, and I think I've beat these guys up pretty bad and didn't make a whole lot of progress. But the plan development agreement, I guess, this is the first time it's come in front of the board, so it's our first chance to review it. And I have a couple comments on it that would need to be addressed before I guess we can take a look at it further. I guess there's some Section F, the recital Section F, the dates for the Planning Commission approvals is incomplete. That's also the same in Article 2, Section 2.1.E. Those need to be added in. Article 4, Section 4.3A, stating that the road commission required improvements to 10 Mile, including the acceleration, deceleration lanes, and the continuation of the center left turn lane. I'd like that amended to say that should be completed during phase 1 of the project. Addition to that same section, 4.3, the material for the access drive to the wastewater treatment plant, in the PD it states limestone. I know I've asked for concrete, and that was, I know the answer to that. Your plans show limestone, it also shows grass pavers. So there's a disconnect between the two materials. I guess is the intent to have it all limestone, or is the intent to still have grass pavers on one end of that access drive?
The proposal, I think that's shown on the plan, is to have grass pavers from the street through the lots, and so by the end of the lots, when it goes through the field, essentially, then the field will be limestone.
Okay, then I guess the PD agreement should be revised to have both material types in there. Same section, Article 4, 4.3G. The third line in that section, it's asking for the township to be responsible for any, parcel splits for the dedication of future property for a water tower, if needed. I'd request that it be, either the developer be responsible for that, or if we're not going to be placing the water tower in this location, then that just be removed from the plan development. I know we've changed the location tonight in Griswold, so if this is still a potential option for the second tower, if we go that route.
I think it could be. I still think it could be.
I would recommend leaving it in there. The language about the recording is fine, but as far as being able to have the land available to the township, I would recommend leaving it in there at this time.
Okay, but then change the language. Again, 4.3.I, it references the landscape plan for 16-foot trees. The landscape plan currently shows the 16-foot trees on the west property line only, not the east property line. That's been a comment in McKenna's letter since preliminary review, and I know some of the other board members have expressed their concern over making that change. The PD still references the January landscape plan, so that has yet to be updated. So that needs to be addressed as well. That's also in section 4.4A as far as the landscape, the date of the landscape plans. Section 4.15.A, there's a section on minor reductions and setbacks. Since we've already reduced the setbacks on here, that whole paragraph should be deleted since we've already reduced the setbacks per the PD agreement. I guess, and finally, the last one is the signature page. Our clerk's name is Michelle, not Michael, as shown in the document. And those are my comments on the PD agreement.
Okay. Can that be fixed?
I believe so.
You have any objections to any of the things that he asked about?
Clearly, I've agreed already on this, the 16-foot
They were
landscaping.
16 to 20.
Right, so that's already been taken care of. I don't think there was anything objectionable. We're planning on doing the road improvements with Phase 1. That was probably the biggest thing. I think we should be in good shape.
How do we want to handle that? You want to make a motion with the additions to the PD agreements? Is that the way you want to carve a motion out that way?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Is that fine with you, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody want to make it?
Do I have to list everything Chris had? Because I just jotted them sideways here.
You got them written down, Chris?
Or can I? Do you have them written down?
Yeah, I have other notes on here too,
Okay.
but if you want, I can circle them and get them to you.
I'll move to approve AP-17-10 Oak Ridge Plan Development Final Plan Development Agreement with the changes noted by Trustee Enlow and
McKenna letter 329.
McKenna letter 329. Leslie didn't have a letter, right?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, May.
531.
531. Kelly, can I just submit these to you to put in there instead of reading them all again? Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Everybody
Okay, that's
understand
my
that
motion.
motion?
Give that to Kelly.
Second.
Okay. So we do have a motion of support for the final review and a support. Why don't we call this one by roll?
Sean O'Neill?
No.
John Dolan?
No.
Yes.
Sorry. I did that twice, so it was clearing me. No. Sorry.
John Hicks?
Yes.
Michelle Cash?
Yes.
Patricia Carcone?
Yes.
Lisa Blades?
No.
Christopher Enlow?
No.
Okay, motion moves forward. All right, moving on. Consideration of adoption of an ordinance to amend winemaking and distillery regulations. These are text amendments. I believe these are second readings.
Yes.
I think we have all looked this over. If there's any more questions? Does anyone have any questions on the motion be in order?
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 195-18.
I'll support that.
Motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to new business. Okay, this first is a request for Pontiac Trail and Milford Road water main extension, and I think we're going to need some bring into this. Do you want to bring it in, or?
Well, I can give a brief introduction before the applicant, unless you'd rather hear from them first, but
Well, I think it'd be nice to give the board an overview, a little bit of an overview while they're getting ready.
okay. So I think it was probably a few months ago that we met with representatives of the Triumph Building Company, which is kind of outlined in my letter in the packet of June 1st, to determine whether or not the township would consider extending water main to a parcel of land in Milford Township, at Milford and Pontiac Trail, approximately. And part of that discussion was whether or not the system could support that type of extension. And the applicant deposited funds. We did do an analysis, a WaterCAD model, to see what would be required for it to meet the engineering design standards. We only modeled it at current day. We didn't do future projections of demand on the system, just to really get an indication of whether or not it would even work and meet the engineering standards. In order for it to work, it would require that the water main be looped down Milford Road. Right now, there's a single water main feed to the north side of the freeway, and it crosses the freeway approximately at McDonald's and goes across to the Alta site, and that's pretty much the existing limit. So in order for the site to even possibly be serviced, it would require approximately 4,500 feet of off-site water main. But with that extension and the loop, you would be able to serve them and meet the township's engineering standards. So as far as the analysis that we did, then I'm sure they have a presentation for you to consider whether or not you'd be interested in extending the water main to the site. And if you are, then there'd be certain steps that would be required afterwards, including an intergovernmental agreement, assuming Milford Township supported that as well. And then I would also recommend additional modeling for future projections before it goes too far. But that's really just a brief summary from the engineering perspective on the request.
Does everyone kind of understand what they're asking for here? Anybody have any questions for Leslie before they get started? Okay. Come on up and give us your name and address for the record. And could you just give us your name and address for the record?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Adriano Pachoco, and I reside at 61250 Saddle Creek Drive here in Lyon Township. I've been engaged by a Triumph Building Company to make this simple presentation this evening. I do quite a bit of outside consulting work for Triumph. The principals of Triumph are Patrick Carana, who resides at 61140 Ladbrook Drive in Lyon Township, and Robert Pachoco, who resides at 61250 Saddle Creek Drive, also here in Lyon Township. And as you can see, they are present here with us this evening. Can you put the background? Okay. Just to give you a brief background on Triumph, they're a third-generation builder-developer. They've acquired and/or developed and constructed 20-plus single-family communities here in the Tri-County area, each ranging from 10 to 200 homes within the developments. They developed and constructed and manage 3 luxury multifamily apartment communities as we speak. They've constructed and managed a light industrial 13,000 square foot building that they leased to Otis Spunkmeyer, a publicly traded cookie company. And they have built numerous custom homes throughout southeast Michigan. Another thing Triumph does is they acquire land and turn around and flip it. A couple of the recent activities were a purchase of a 10-acre parcel at Grand River and Novi Road, just east of the, what is the name of that big mall there? Well, it's south of 12 Oaks. Anyway, they acquired and purchased 10 acres there at Grand River, east of Novi Road, and turned around and sold it to the city of Novi. They've also acquired a 62-acre parcel that they own at Silver Lake and Pontiac Trail, which is currently within a purchase agreement with Pinnacle Homes and/or now MI Homes. We have a unique opportunity this evening, which we believe can be a win-win for both Lyon Township and Triumph. Triumph is in the process of acquiring enclosing on a 35-acre parcel of land, vacant land, located on the northeast corner of Milford Road and Pontiac Trail in Milford Township. The parcel of land does abut Lyon Township and is north of I-96. At this time, the conceptual plan that you see is what Triumph is intending to develop and build. It will consist of approximately 10 acres of retail, which will include 2 restaurant/retail sites, 1 gas station site, 1 fast food site, and 1 bank/retail site. The remaining 25 acres, they are proposing to build a luxury multifamily for-lease community consisting of approximately 200 units, 32 two-story buildings with 1-car attached garages, gated entrances to the community, community clubhouses with amenities such as pools, updated kitchen, newer kitchens, granites, fireplaces, etc. We thought it was appropriate to show you just a few illustrations of Central Park Estates, which is a community that we built and developed and still own and manage in Novi. It's located on the south side of Grand River, east off of Beck Road. It's what we consider our flagship development. Central Park is a high-end luxury multifamily rental community, which is what Triumph intends to develop and build on the vacant parcel at Milford Road and Pontiac Trail. As you can see in this particular slide, some of the amenities we have: tennis courts. That is the second picture from your left is the front entrance of the clubhouse. We have a pool, exterior pool, kiddie pool, whirlpool. There's a billiards room within the community clubhouse. The lower pictures represent exercise facility, a little gathering area within the clubhouse, the rear of the buildings, and then, of course, an indoor whirlpool. Can you go to the next slide? It is a gated entry, as you can see in the top left photo. Again, just some more pictures of some of the amenities we have here in that particular community. Triumph is very confident that this type of community will be a great benefit economically for the downtown Lyon Township and the Grand River Corridor business. We are proposing and seeking approval this evening to extend the existing dead-end water main currently located at the Alta equipment site. Robert, do you mind pointing that out? And completing the loop, connecting it to the existing, what I consider dead-end water main, which currently terminates south of I-96 and east and on the east side of Milford Road. The proposed water main extension will support the properties and REU quantities depicted in the Township Engineer's Report dated February 16th, 2018. That was a report that Mrs. Zawada was speaking of earlier. As I mentioned earlier, I feel that this proposed water main is a win-win for the following reasons. The cost to extend the water main will be approximately $1.2 million and will be paid for by the developers, not costing Lyon Township or any of its residents 1 penny. And it would also complete the water main loop, which I think is something that is very desirable. Community benefits. We feel it will support the current businesses in downtown Lyon Township, our community, proposed community. It will support the businesses along the Grand River Corridor, and it will also attract, in our opinion, new businesses at the line crossing, which, as we know, some of that land has been vacant for quite some time now. Economic benefits. According to NAA, which is the National Apartment Association, and NMHC, the National Multifamily Housing Council District, for each 200 units, it creates a powerful economic benefit. It generates an additional $4.72 million for the local economy and supports 56 jobs. It generates an extra $1.38 million in economic contribution and additionally supports 12 additional jobs. And then the actual construction of the community would generate $38.08 million in economic contribution for the state and supports an additional 360 jobs. Does not include the economic benefit for the 5, we'll call them commercial pods. These figures do not represent that. Okay, so lastly, in order for us to move this water main extension forward, we are requesting a proposal, the next steps to be as follow. Hopefully obtain Board of Trustees approval to allow the water main extension at no cost to Lyon Township or the Lyon Township residents. Prepare the intergovernmental water agreement for approval and signature by both Lyon Township and Milford Township. And then lastly, we would engage the Lyon Township engineer to prepare the engineering/construction drawings for the project. I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration on this matter, and would be very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I mean, basically, we're looking at the extension of a water main, and it would be up to Milford to okay that PD. So I guess the whole discussion here tonight should be about the water main. And if you agree that getting the water main looped at someone else's expense is a good thing or a bad thing. So therefore, I'd like to open it up. Go ahead, Lisa.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say, I think from my perspective, this is a little bit premature. They're really here asking for an extension of a water main to service a parcel that hasn't been approved by the neighboring community. So there might want to be some conversation and discussion on whether you would want to consider this in the future, but there really isn't anything formal in front of you to act on at this point because there's no intergovernmental agreement. We don't have any representation from Milford Township here telling you that this is what they'd like, and there's no solid indication that Milford Township would approve a community like this. They may very well do that. At this point, we just don't know. So maybe some general discussion would be in order.
And I think that's what are you looking, you're more or less looking, you're not looking for a vote, you're looking for the board to say that they would back this.
Well, we've had, if I could respond, we've had some informal discussions with Milford Township in regards to what we are proposing to build and develop there. Our read on those informal discussions with them were very positive. One of the requirements before we make any submittals to Milford Township is to depict our source of water. So we thought it made sense, and by the way, we also had informal conversation with Milford Township in regards to this water main extension. And again, our read on it was very positive. So we were hoping to get an approval to extend this water main this evening, subject to an intergovernmental approved agreement by both townships. And not until then is it truly approved. But if I did get that approval and then move forward with the attorneys, both Lyon Township and Milford Township attorneys, in working through the intergovernmental agreement and got that approved by everyone, then we would be in a position to move forward and submit accordingly based on the reality of having this approved. So that's why we're here before you tonight.
I guess in response to that, I would say, in my perspective, it's still premature. I think there can be certainly some conversation and some direction, maybe a straw vote direction to give you some indication, a pretty good indication of where the board might be lining up and what they might be interested in doing in the future. But without something more solid, it's difficult, I think, for the board to take firm action to approve something. That's not to say that as this progresses, you can't go back to Milford Township if the board gives you an indication that they're interested, and let them know that you've gotten a solid, good sign from this board that they'd be interested in moving forward. And then there can be communications from that point forward.
If I may again, we plan on closing and acquire this property, irregardless of whether this particular project gets approved or not. So having said that, and by the way, I do respect what you're saying. I'm just trying to make you understand where we're at. We are closing on this property. We are acquiring the property. Whether it's this proposed development that we showed you earlier or something similar to that, at the end of the day, we would still be here asking for the water main extension, again, subject to both townships approving the intergovernmental agreement. So, and like I said, before I make any submittals in Milford Township, one of the requirements is your source of water. Are we going with a independent well, or are we going to go to them and say, we've gotten Township of Lyon approval to extend the water main subject to an appropriate agreement? And so again, that's why we're here, not trying to put the cart in front of the horse, but we think we know what we need to try to accomplish in order to move forward on the submittal process.
Do you want to talk a little bit and at least give some conversation?
Yeah, I would be in support of further looking at this, but I'm not comfortable with voting on it tonight, other than just to tell you that I would be optimistic. I think it's an interesting opportunity for everyone, but out of respect for Milford Township and where they're at, I haven't seen a sentence from them saying that, hey, we're okay with this, we're going to let you bring your utility into our township. And just out of respect for them in the process, I'm uncomfortable voting on anything tonight. But I don't object to this. I would like to further discuss it, and I'm optimistic, but that's all I'd say tonight.
Chris, you want to add?
I guess coming into this and seeing the information, I mean, getting a loop water main that's 100% developer funded is, it's a good thing in my book. Obviously, whatever's proposed, it's Milford Township's call. I mean, I'm not opposed to bringing in water, and it sounds like it's going to help our system by completing a loop. Just I don't know, just a couple things when I was thinking about it was, we just had Milford Road resurfaced under 96 too, and if there's a water main going through there, that's going to disrupt what we just paid for, I think, two years ago. Mm-hmm. But, look at that. No, I mean, I don't know. I'm not opposed to it. I think it generally is probably a good thing.
Thank you.
But it all depends on what Milford Township says.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'd add, and you sat through the presentation we had on water, 2 years ago we wouldn't have had water to sell you. We don't have water to sell you today, but we're in the middle of building an expansion to our system that will provide us, I believe, plenty of water to handle this and, other things in the future. So, primarily for our residents, but an opportunity to potentially provide, like Chris said, the loop and fire safety through that area as well, because there are no hydrants along that stretch of road. So we will have capacity to be able to entertain something like this.
Yeah, this probably wouldn't have been the first community I would have guessed that we would have potential of supplying with water. So,
good.
Patty? Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely in favor of it, especially, I know I've met with you guys a couple times, and I questioned Leslie extensively about it, and from her her takeaway was that it would really help with that looping system. And just like Sean and Chris have mentioned, the ability now to have the water that we have the ability to sell, because we know now that we have capacity, and it's going to be great water. So I have no problem with looking in the future for that, and I respect Milford also, so it's really is in their court, but I understand you have to come here first to even see if we would even entertain the idea, and I am certainly interested in that.
I had one more.
Go ahead, Carson.
Sorry,
That's right.
I was just pulling up their zoning map too, and because just in respect to the development, but it's zone planned shopping center, just so the board's aware.
Correct, C2.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've had multiple offers on that property.
Sure.
And they kind of are in the same situation, a large township that does not have their own water and sewer. So, they brought some water, I think, from Wixom up to the other development that's farther down. And
Yeah, I just
so
had
we'll
a,
have to see what really they think. But this has been, they've had, just like we do, multiple offers on it, and just all depends on who can come through with it.
I just had a momentary panic, 'cause I knew they had industrial zone property further east, and I was like, wait a minute, I need to double check that.
So I guess the question I have, again, before I make any preliminary site plan submittals to Milford Township, one of the requirements is source of water, and we were trying to remove this item off the checklist. Are you suggesting that what I should do now is possibly engage in the intergovernmental agreement between both parties and try to get that approved and signed?
You can't get the intergovernmental agreement signed until you have a site plan that's been submitted and approved. I think that's your next step.
With
As far as
Milford Township?
Sure, that's the community that will be approving this development. And I think as far as your source of water, once you hear from the remaining board members, you've gotten an indication from 3 members that they would be in favor of this. I think, depending on what the remaining board members say, you could go back to Milford and say, look, we went to Lyon Township and we got very positive feedback. There'll be meeting minutes from this meeting. You'd be welcome to take those approved meeting minutes to, give them proof that this was discussed and you got positive feedback, and give them some assurance that there's a plan or a potential plan in place for water. And then you could move forward from that point.
Okay. And if one were to just want to acquire that land in Milford Township and not do anything and sit on it for future investment and resale, but still wanted to propose a water main loop, is that not something that Lyon Township would consider? And/or again, our comments and feedback from Milford was very simple, is that, it's not up to us if they want to allow you to do that, to go ahead and do it, and obviously communicate with us what they've said, and we can take it from there. So, again, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know if I quite agree with, I need to get that particular project approved or what have you, because the water main extension is something, that is truly separate of and/or not really contingent upon what gets approved at that site.
I would say that while that may be the case, if you were bringing in the most obnoxious use in southeast Michigan, I would vote no against it and not supply you with the water in an adjacent community that would allow you to open that door.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just telling you
Yeah,
from
I
that standpoint,
respect
I need
that.
to know what you're going to build before I'm going to say we're going to help make that become a reality right at our doorstep.
Sure,
I mean, that's my feedback.
Sure, I understand that.
I would like to see you get down a road in this direction consistent with what everyone's expecting in this area.
Okay.
Because as you know, any border rezonings involve neighboring communities in the county, and everybody has their input. So we're aware that this is what they intend to do at this intersection, and we're okay with that. It's their decision, it's their community, but it's not something that, hog farming is not the
Right.
proposed use there. But if something were to change and we had the ability to potentially stop something totally obnoxious, I'm just
Sure.
hypothetical, then that's where I would be concerned, and that's where I would want this to be
Great-
tied to a
great point.
specific project, not a brick color or
Yeah.
a number of square feet, but in general, this type of mixed-use project, which is, seems reasonable to me.
Yep, great point. I understand.
Well, that being said, would you like to hear the rest of the, to see what they think about it?
Yeah, if anyone has any additional comments, I'd be
Well, I
glad to
mean,
hear them.
you still need to know if they even would entertain it at all, and I think that's a
Yeah.
plus.
I too am for finishing the loop of the water, especially if you guys are going to pay for it. And again, it would be out of respect for Milford, it's their property, so if they say we've all approved or kind of agreed or gave the nod, then, you know, to go ahead and do that. So,
Okay.
yep, but it's
Thank
up to
you.
Milford, it's their development.
John?
I think this is the exact kind of development that we're looking for. Even though it's not in our community, it would help our downtown development greatly. Everybody wants the number of rooftops to be X, and we aren't there yet, and that's what we need. The water extension is a no-brainer for me, as long as the engineers approves it. I didn't really think it through like Sean's saying, but we have to somehow or other know exactly what's going to go there before the final approval of that, in my opinion.
Okay, Lisa?
I would, again, agree with everyone here that it is a benefit to loop our system, and especially at a developer's expense. And I am overall in favor with the concept of it, and, you know, as everybody has said so far too, that it really is Milford Township's approval, and I want to respect their, I don't want to tell them what they should be doing. I did have a couple of questions, though. If you had mentioned that this would be at no cost to Lyon Township or to Lyon Township residents, and I guess one of the questions I would have is, if there are repairs needed to that loop in the future, who would end up having to pay for that, for those repairs? Would that then be, because we're supplying you with the water, would that be a responsibility for Lyon Township to pay for that repair? And that's just a question. I don't expect you to have an answer right now, but that's a question I would have.
Okay. I don't know where Leslie went, but I think what would normally transpire is, since we're putting the infrastructure in, and obviously we would dedicate it to Lyon Township, at that point, whatever maintenance or anything that's required for a water main system would, I think, fall within the township's responsibility.
I kind of assumed that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to
I-
clarify.
That's how I kind of see it playing out.
Bob, is that generally what would?
Yeah, exactly. And depending on the type of material you put in, HDPE, which is a plastic type, it'll probably long serve past my service here. So,
Well, we would put in whatever Leslie recommended.
yeah, she's the person right there.
And then only, you had mentioned that this would be a benefit to the downtown Lyon Township area with customers coming into our shopping area. And I guess that to piggyback a little bit with what Sean O'Neill had said about, you know, if it's an obnoxious use, we would not want that. I just have a concern with that increase in customers coming into our township. You know, would that increase our the need for more police presence in that community and additional traffic? Would that have a negative impact on that intersection and the overall potential for difficulties in that location with, yes, you would be in Milford Township, but those residents are really going to be coming into Lyon Township, but Milford Township tax dollars are not going to be used to help us build or repair that intersection area. So that's just a concern that I would have.
I understand. Okay.
Okay, well, I really think that you have the nod for forward. I think that we're probably going to listen to the attorney, and we're not going to.
Yeah, no, I totally respect that.
Any type of vote for this, but I do
Totally
think
respect
that the
that.
majority of the board seems to be, we'd love to have that looped at your cost.
Okay.
And make that water nice for all of our
So I am,
northern people.
so I am able to sit back down with Milford Township and tell them about this meeting, and that, as I kind of read it, the vast majority of the board is in favor for this concept.
You can,
think
you
that's
can
the
send them the
takeaway.
video link too.
Okay. Well, I'm one of those guys that have pen and paper,
There
like
will-
the gentleman from earlier.
No
There will be
rendering
approved.
houses there.
There will be approved meeting minutes that you'd be welcome to take with you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Have a good evening. I appreciate everything.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you. Okay, moving on to B, Lion Preserve PD, final review, formerly known as Huntsmore Estate PD.
Thank you. We have a letter dated May 30th of 2018, and we're at the point where we are reviewing the final plan development. The Lion Preserve plan development was previously known as Huntmore Estates, and they had changed the name after a preliminary review, so it's now referred to as Lion Preserve Plan Development. The development itself is mostly the same, which is 53 single-family detached homes on 60.42 acres. It's located on the south side of 10 Mile Road between Milford and Griswold. And on the conceptual plan, there were 66 units proposed. So it's been reduced down to 53. There are 2 phases proposed on the plan, 27 units in Phase 1 and 26 units in Phase 2. The plan was most recently reviewed by the Planning Commission on May 14th. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final plan, subject to conditions of the McKenna Review Letter of May 11th and the CES Review Letter of May 11th. At conceptual review, there were comments from both the Planning Commission and the board. At preliminary review, the Planning Commission held the public hearing and unanimously recommended approval on January 22nd of 2018, and the Township Board followed up on February 5th of 2018, and at that meeting, the Township Board had unanimously approved the final plan, or I'm sorry, the preliminary plan. So at the final review, this is the point at which the final changes are incorporated, including the plan development agreement. We have drafted a plan development agreement, fairly boilerplate, that's summarized on page 3, and we've presented that to the applicants for review by them and their attorneys. There are some things with respect to the development itself that we'll have to incorporate in there. So that we're working with the applicants on some of those final tweaks. On page 2 of our letter, the final PD plans are substantially similar to the preliminary PD plans approved by the Planning Commission and the board. There are a few items of note here in terms of the comparisons to the preliminary plan, but they're mostly the same. There's a few tweaks in some of the sizes of the areas, but the overall density is within the range recommended by the future land use map. And most of the changes have been relatively positive. For example, there's been a cul-de-sac at the end of Phase 1 instead of the T turnaround proposed at preliminary. The tree replacement requirements have been addressed, and they meet the ordinance standards of 230 replacement trees. And the fiscal impact analysis has been updated, and that's an overall positive fiscal impact. The summary on the 3rd page of our letter is that the Planning Commission recommended approval subject to 3 conditions, which we also recommend approval. Those 3 conditions are, first, the proposed timeline of development construction on all phases must be provided, as well as a timeline of all public and private improvements. Second, the applicant should contact the post office to determine if mailbox clusters will be required. If they are required, then they should be designed and shown on the plans. And third, the applicant must provide facade designs and floor plans for proposed residential units. In addition to that, we also recommend that any comments from the township engineer and township attorney be incorporated as well. So that summarizes our letter, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, and Leslie, did you want to add anything?
Yes. I'd like to refer to our May 31st review letter, which is in your packet. This is the first final submittal, as you're aware, and sometimes on the plan developments, they submit a detailed engineering review before they submit for final PD. It's not required, but it does give us a little bit of an additional look at some of the items that I'm going to go through. Since the preliminary PD review, we requested the soil borings from the applicant, and we've had a chance to review those. And I am concerned, based on the preliminary grading plan submitted, that there might be a situation of sump pumps running continuously. But I don't have enough information with this submittal to make that determination. And we've received, every spring and fall especially, we receive a significant number of complaints due to high groundwater all over the township. It's not just in some of the developments like Stoneley, but it's really all over. And 3 weeks ago, we had some very large rain events, and we're inundated, the township hall and my office, with flooding complaints, sump pumps running, and we're constantly chasing these. So when looking at the soil boring report, it concerned me that I just am not completely comfortable with the grading plan that's in this packet. Now, having said that, it might be fine. It could be that, like, for example, the basement elevations aren't provided to me in the review. So there's some things that could be clarified that maybe I would be comfortable at a second reading, for example. So I wanted to point that out to you. If the township board is inclined to approve the first reading of the final PD, I would recommend that the motion remove the grading plans from the packet. I have had an opportunity to speak with Rick Elko today, the developer. He has representatives here tonight. He had a family emergency. He was not able to attend himself. He's pretty comfortable based on the elevations of the homes that are adjacent to this development. Looking at those elevations, however, he would like the township to consider at least taking action, so I just wanted to put that out there. If the board does want to take action tonight, it could do so by removing the grading sheets, and then we'd have an opportunity to thoroughly review it before a second reading. Also, I just wanted to note a couple of other items in my review letter. Item number 4, for example, the 10-mile road improvements shall be required as part of Phase 1. The detailed improvements will be reviewed as part of the detailed engineering review, but as far as phasing, that should be included with Phase 1. We have not received any permits for this project at this time, just that was more of a note. Number 6, the final PD plan should clarify if any of the walk or path near the play structure is part of Phase 1. And I also note, number 7, please note that the forebay and detention basins are required to be constructed as part of Phase 1, as well as the necessary storm sewer to accommodate that phase. So I'm happy to answer your questions that you may have based on our review letter.
Anybody have any questions for Leslie?
Leslie, so when they bring the elevations for the houses in, I mean, referring to the basements, will he have to build everything up higher then? Is that recommended for everybody now going forward?
No, not necessarily. It's just on a planned development specifically, it is an opportunity to ask for things that might not always be required. Like, what are your basement elevations? That is not normally a part of what we review. But looking at the groundwater elevations, and the soil borings aren't exactly at the houses. There's only about 6 soil borings that were done so far. They might need some additional borings to get a really good idea of what the groundwater is. It could mean that if they want to have basements, they might need to raise those areas up a little bit more. Those are things that they would have to, I think they need some additional time with their geotechnical engineer to make some recommendations on the basement elevations. And then their civil engineer that's designing this would then change the grading plan accordingly. He is bringing in fill. The elevations of the homes on the south end are close to the west end of Stoneley, and that is an area where I have not heard of them having issues. But in light of all of the complaints that the township has received and the concern by all of the board members, it's something that I wanted to bring to your attention.
All right, this would be a first reading of the final. Would there be enough time for them to get this grading? I don't know, is the applicant here? You want to come on up and?
I wouldn't recommend it go on to a board meeting until we were comfortable with it for a second reading, if you're inclined to take any action tonight.
That's what I'm asking. If we did it tonight, before it got to a second reading, would would you be capable of taking care of these grading situations she's talking about?
Yeah, hi. Tom Gazzoni with Alpine Engineering, 46892 West Road, Novi. Yeah, we're working diligently on the water, addressing Leslie's water table concerns. Based on what I've seen, personally, I don't have concerns about it. We've really been studying it. We've been studying the wetland, the elevation of the water at the wetland. The ponds are directly adjacent to the wetland. Our ponds are higher than the water in the wetland. So I think the ponds are okay based on what I'm seeing. The homes themselves, we studied the Stoneley project next door, and we're 2 to 3 feet higher, our basements, than theirs. We're bringing in 5 to 7 feet of fill along the cul-de-sac. So we're really bringing in a lot of fill to try to get these homes up as high as we can, to address any of these water table concerns. We're working on lining up an excavator for this week to do test pits out there to further study that. And then what we'd like to do is sit down with Leslie, as soon as possible to, go over all the data and see if we can get this resolved.
Okay, would the board like to ask any questions to the applicant or Leslie or Patrick?
Making those elevations that much higher, is that going to now flood Stoneley?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
They have to capture all of their
Yeah.
stormwater on their own site and then bring it to their own ponds. Just the roads would connect, but they would have catch basins there to collect their own water.
Okay.
That was the same question I had, that Michelle had. So,
Anybody else like to talk about this at all? Sean?
I don't have anything. I think it was a pretty good plan to begin with. I think it's been made a little bit better, and I think we need to look at this further, and I think we will. I'd be
Good with the first reading?
comfortable with the first reading and then getting this resolved prior to second. So, like Leslie mentioned, we're not adding another project to the long list of, well, I shouldn't say long list, but to the list of projects that have groundwater concerns. So, which hopefully, 2 or 3 feet difference is significant. So, let's have to look further at it.
John, I just had a couple of comments. I don't know if
Go ahead.
now's the
Yep,
time.
go ahead.
I am inclined to go with Leslie's determination regarding the water issues, and I know that you said you don't really have any concerns. I think that with Leslie's experience in dealing with some water issues, especially these last few weeks, I'll kind of refer to her. And I do like quite a bit of this project, and I think that the additional plantings near the tot lot, that's very nice to have, and the contribution to the park. I did have a question, is that pathway paved around the natural area? I can't remember if that was gonna be paved or not.
Crush line.
Along the far south end of the project?
Right, around that runs near Yerkes Drain and by the detention.
So it would be south of the large wetland and north of the Yerkes Drain?
Yes.
Yeah. That we're proposing as asphalt millings.
Okay.
So that's recycled asphalt?
Leslie, is that all right for our standards, or?
Well, it doesn't meet a pathway standard, but for a natural area, that's really your discretion, what type of material is acceptable.
Okay, as long as it's not wood chips. And I did, my big goal in the community is to have some sense of sidewalk connectivity, and so I took a look at the boundary maps for Southline schools, and I think by having the benefit to this project, I think, is that if you had family friends that happen to live in Pinehurst, you can kind of wiggle your way through your development and even into Stoneley with that sidewalk path, and like that goes through the neighborhood, and at least give a safer way for our community to get from point A to point B instead of trying to walk or ride bicycles along 10 Mile. So I do like the just having that development there so that we can have another safer way to get through. And I also like the approaches being paved for Douglas Drive. Those are just my only comments.
Okay. John, anything?
I have nothing special.
Okay. Chris? Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I did.
Still like it.
Okay.
Just a couple comments on the PD agreement, and they kind of tie into the community benefits associated with the project, but that same, it's Article 4, 4.3A, where it details the off-site paving. I know it's a draft PD agreement, but, you know, just to make sure that the paving of Douglas Drive, the approach is in there. I believe there's a couple other residential drive approaches along the
That will all be included with
Yep,
phase
the
one
center
construction.
East and
Yeah,
west.
the center left turn lane and then also the right turn lane into the development. So I say that too, to just point out the paving improvements that are proposed with this project, which are definitely a community benefit with the project. And then again with it's section 4.15A, the minor reductions in setback, that can be deleted because we are reducing them as part of the PD. But yeah, I mean, I think the benefits of the paving at 10 Mile and the associated improvements, the connectivity to Stoneley, you've got a nice loop around the south end, around the wetlands. There's a walking path that is in there, a little playground, and also a connection, internal connection to the playground, and 62% open space, and a donation of $100,000 to the park. Yeah, I've got no complaints. You've got a lot of good community benefits associated with this project. And it's not a bunch of straight roads.
Patty, you want to add anything? Are you good?
Actually, Chris and Lisa answered all what I was going to ask, mostly about the community benefits.
So it sounds to me like everyone is at the opinion that they're comfortable with the first reading to go forward and make sure that the grading specifications are here for the second reading. Is that what you, and then also, Chris, if you want to add your PD amendments, I don't know if you want to add them into your motion. You want to make a motion?
Sounds like you should make a motion.
Sure. I'll make a motion to move first review for Lion Preserve PD AP 17-18, formerly known as Huntmore Estates PD, with the plan development agreement corrections as stated in my comments.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and a
Did you
support.
remove the
Any further?
milling parts of that? The,
Yes, and with the removal of the grading plans.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, first reading.
Thank you.
passed. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the resolution to update the utility fee schedule, and I believe this has to do with our water.
Yes.
And I think some of this is changing some of the language also from Oakland County to Lyon Township, and
Exactly.
these are also fees that we would like to charge going forward, and it's open for discussion. Did you get a chance to look at the fees? Yeah.
So this, Leslie, is this basically, we're just changing it to Lyon Township and the fees remain the same?
Exactly. So we removed the reference to Oakland County Drain Commissioner or Water Resources Commissioner in both this and your next agenda item. The only fee that we added was a $100 lump sum water use fee for new residential building, and when a development is constructing new mains, we will perform the same calculation that Oakland County always did for the water that is used in testing, et cetera. And that's based on footage of main. So we did add those under, it's on page 4, item E. Other than that, everything else is the same. No fees were increased. It was really just changing the name of the collection entity.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2018-09.
Support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're moving on to the engineering design standard update. This again has a lot of language, just changing it to Lyon Township.
Exactly.
It's basically, the majority of it is just to get the right wording in here.
Yes. The reference to Oakland County regarding the water system has been changed to Lyon Township.
Make a motion that we move ordinance 06-18 to second reading.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, get rid of that. Okay, moving on. Now we have the Downtown Authority supervisor appointments, and this is tough because, you know, things get going through the DDA, and I know Jay Howie, who's here tonight, Jay, a long time volunteer for the DDA, probably been there since it's been in its inception, probably. I would think that he was probably the first day on there. And really, the township owes Jay Howie a lot. He's done a lot of things on his own time. He's recently taken a job with another company. I know that's changed his life quite a bit, but I mean, this township owes a lot to Jay Howie. As we make these appointments, I do these, I'm trying to take some of the boards and I'm trying to change some of the longtime members just to get new perspective. Sometimes we have new residents that come in that want to serve, and other times it's just, you know, different perspectives on these boards. I've done it on a few different boards, and I'm not done. I mean, we've got some others that we're going to change that are coming up. But it's a hard part because Jay's not only, you know, a colleague of mine, he's also a friend, and so it's a hard thing to do. But tonight, I would like to replace Jay on the DDA board with Troy Powell, who's just another longtime volunteer that I'd like to try him on the DDA board for a period of time. I think that in the future here, some of these appointments that we have that stay on for years and years and years, I'd like to make them, you know, maybe have a term limit on them. Maybe, I don't mean to term limit them, but I mean, maybe when they get over a 10-year period, maybe it's time for another shot at someone else. And unfortunately, Jay's seat has some criteria to it. And the criteria is that they have to live in the DDA, and they also, either they have to work in the DDA, but there's some criteria of that position. And Troy does fit that position, and that's my appointment tonight. I'd like to replace Jay Howie with Troy Powell on the DDA for a term of 4 years, which actually would go from 11/30/17, when Jay's was up, to 11/30/20. And that's...
I would support that.
All right, so I have a motion and a support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Troy.
Thanks, Jay.
Absolutely, Jay, come on up.
I just want to say thank you. I absolutely love my time on the DDA. I love making things happen. And because of all the economic development stuff that you guys sent me to, and a lot of the education that I got in economic development, and then putting together the gun range deal, I mean, no matter where you hit, what side of the fence you're on that, it was a big deal. And I'm pretty proud of it. But through all that, and because of all that, and because of the township and my experience here, I actually ended up with a dream job. I mean, I really love my job. If you saw the deals on my desk, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, I'm working on stuff I just absolutely love to do. So
That's wonderful, Jay, and thank you. And I mean that when I say thank you for all. I know these years were without pay.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing, and
paying off now.
we do appreciate it, and thank you very much for the time you served. Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
John, I'm sorry, John.
Yes.
We also had to reappoint then Mark Zerlag. I think they were both up
Yes,
for their
I've got
appointments.
that one coming up next. Mark has been on the board for almost the 10 years that I'm talking about, so his is going to be coming up next. But I would like to reappoint Mark Zerlag to the position on the DDA board for a second term, or actually, his would go out to 2020 also.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thanks again, Jay. Yes, come on up, Troy, come on up.
You don't know him like I do. I like that.
Thank you for the trust and appointing me once again to the DDA. And I just want to say thank you and appreciate the trust, and I will do my best to support the township and the DDA as best I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you
Troy.
very much.
Thank you.
And Jay, once again, thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, moving on to the consideration of the Park Advisory Board recommendation to update the Park and Rec Master Plan as outlined in McKenna, which was tabled from last month. So that's up here again. So here we are, open for discussion again on that, getting the master plan put together for the park.
I won't make a motion because it could kill the discussion, but I would be in favor of waiting again until July. I think we have the time to do it. It's not an emergent situation, and I really do think that some of the things we're working on should be done after we have a.
I don't think so. Shouldn't we let them run with that?
This is in the job description for the planner, and if we're gonna hire somebody, I'm not sure why we wouldn't get them on board first and either let them, again, play a significant role or potentially at least be in an advisory capacity to this update. That's just my feeling, and obviously not everybody.
I know, I just was gonna ask, I mean, I thought the update had to be done by January 1st, or is it later than that, Patrick? I don't,
We have until, I think, March to be eligible
Okay.
for the current
for
grant year.
March, okay. Because if we don't have anybody, then maybe you should attend and do the update with them.
That sounds
if
enticing. I
that's-
will
yeah,
have
so-
to
well,
talk
that's what I'm
further.
saying. I like-
Talk further about that, yeah.
I know we've done interviews, but I still haven't seen a business case for why we should have this in-house planner.
I would say that, I don't know if you want to get into that discussion right now on this agenda item, but I think it's a discussion we have had and we could continue to have and probably will continue to have, but there's no planner in any community that's a moneymaker, but it's important, I think, to have additional staff. I mean, I said it last night, I'll say it again. I mean, every meeting we talk about how busy we are here, but we're trying to add people, we're trying to add staff. I don't want to push people on the staff here, but I mean, as a trustee, I guess I felt like I was helping the situation by pushing full-time professional staff as opposed to just saying, well, you guys are busy, I guess work later or work harder. I mean,
Well,
we need to solve some of this stuff. We can't just talk
Do we
about
have the need for it? I'm
Right.
not convinced of that.
Well, let's do this. Let's stay on focus on this master plan. If we're going to go ahead and get this thing moving, I'd like to do that. I don't know. I think maybe what we should do is get a discussion item on the agenda about this planner to find out if the board is still wanting to do this planner.
well, I sit on the park board now with them, and I've got elections coming up, so I was wondering when Lisa was gonna take over, if someone else would be able to fill in, but someone's gotta, sit on that board and help them, because right now we are a board member on that board. So I don't know how long it takes. I've never been through that, so that's what I'm worried about.
It does not take from now until March.
Okay, but we only meet once a month.
Right, but
Okay.
this is going to be done, if this moves ahead in this fashion, it's going to be done by McKenna. The Parks and Rec
Okay.
Advisory Board will have input, but
Okay.
McKenna's going to do all the hard work.
Okay.
And put all the time in.
I guess it was our understanding that Brian was going to kind of workshop through it with us. Yes, he'd do a lot of the legwork in between meetings, but
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that either. That's why I didn't
don't
know.
know,
I didn't know how much time we would be putting in at these meetings with that. So that was my.
Right, I mean.
That's why I thought we move forward now, we can at least get it done. Otherwise, we're. I don't know. I just felt like it would be a rush.
I mean,
I
we'd
thought
still
it was
have
stupid. Okay.
9 months, I think,
Yep.
to do it.
Yeah, if he said through March, that was good. I just thought it had to be done in January. So.
it's.
Is it
like March
$8,000 or is it $9,000?
That's
So
another question I
that-
had.
Because the
we-
contract says 8 in here, but on
Is it
our
not just
agenda.
9?
We
It says
requested that you grant a not to exceed amount of 9 because the way that the bid was written, or I guess not bid, proposal, it had a item in there for additional meetings. and we wanted a buffer for if we needed an additional public input session to get we're trying to come up with another like specific target group, like catering towards disabilities or seniors or something to really bolster our grant cases. And that extra $1,000, I believe an extra meeting was estimated to cost, what, $400? I don't have it in front of me, but
Yeah, it says approximately $400
that
per
way we
meeting.
would allow for 2 extra meetings if we needed them, which I don't think we would need to, but that's where the difference in number comes from.
Well, I know I'm sitting on the committee with,
Yeah.
I think, is it John and I and you for the planner? And we didn't put together a case, which John had mentioned, which I told Sean I would help with. I honestly have not had the time. We've been working on the water, which I think people don't really understand. It has been very taxing. And we're trying to get my department is the water billing. And, we're currently extracting from the county. We're getting new notices made up. We've got to advise our customers. There's automatic withdrawals. There's people that get their bills on email. We have been so busy, and like Michelle's getting ready for election, I also am getting ready for a tax season on top of the water billing. I'm not complaining at all. I just want people to understand that right at this second, water billing is my first priority, then it's taxes. And I hope water billing will go over my taxes, but it's just, I haven't had a chance to do that. But I have a whole list, Sean, of things that I've been trying to work on and listing them. But I know that I am very happy with McKenna, and I'm going to say that publicly because I really am. I know there's some other positions that we really would like and would like to bring to the board. We think we need an additional water person to work alongside with Bob. I know the grant writing's on here, and I don't know if a planner can do that. I don't know what that position is, so maybe
I think
maybe
that's in the
that
job
would make,
description,
well,
right.
then that might be the key to that. But if it seems like we're not going through the steps, we are really busy, and that's a fact. So I don't know what else to tell you. It's just sometimes things have to be, departmentalized, and Michelle has to do her elections. So we're just a little overwhelmed right at this second.
Right.
From the last month of the county and this takeover. And I mean, even today was, I actually felt like I couldn't breathe. That is how busy we were with
3 months
people
out
coming in.
is going to be very intense.
It's just
Our
really,
first billing's going to be.
it's just, we're trying to figure it all out. So if it seems like we're being rude to you or anybody,
No.
we are absolutely not. It's
No.
just really stressful, and today was a huge,
was a
stressful
huge-
day
it
today
was.
for us. And like I said, we got through the weekend, and it's just a lot of stuff. So it's just right now, a lot of stuff is falling on our heads, and we are trying not to make any mistakes or put anybody off, but we are a little overwhelmed.
Well, and
In a good way, but.
right, and the 30-second update from the committee, and I don't know that either one of you will mind that I say this. I mean, we had a round of, we collected applications and resumes, and we wanted to try to broaden the pool of candidates. So we
Right.
re-advertised recently.
Yes.
So we're still in the process of collecting more information, and other applicants are coming in, which is what our goal was. So this isn't being delayed because of
No,
any one
it's-
person or one issue. It's just because we're trying to get the right person, the right fit, and so it's sort of ongoing. So, I mean, my hope is that in the next couple of weeks we have enough information to move ahead on. But John, you had mentioned interviews, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. We want to have a good range of
Really,
candidates
we
before
haven't
we
had a
even do
pool
that.
to draw from.
Right. So I just so
Agreed.
John knows, John Hicks knows that we haven't even gotten to that point yet. So we really haven't had an update to give other than this brief one. So I know it's not an agenda item, but we are still moving ahead. But we haven't gotten terribly far down that road yet. So
Well, I was really referring to, I was going to put a sort of like a budget together.
oh,
And
okay.
it just,
Well,
that's
it's-
what I was referring to.
right.
I told you I would, and I
Right.
just
And-
really,
And some of that began at budget time. In the fall, we put
Right.
into the budget
Right.
a dollar figure, and we considered all this stuff. So it's been allocated. And I think you may all have the job description that was approved, which does get into grant writing and Parks and Rec involvement. So those are kinds of things that we would hope that this person would take the lead on. And obviously, one person can't do everything, but really be someone here 40 hours a week working on it. And, I can't say enough good things about McKenna either, but they're not here 40 hours a week. And that's the design of the consultant township relationship. I mean, none of the consultants are here 40 hours a
They
week.
sure seem like they are.
They're just that fast.
They are
They're
fast.
everywhere. So, I appreciate.
And I just didn't want to wait for this to go if we were running into problems or something should happen or.
Right.
That's all. I just was speaking for that board because they kind of looked at us like, or at me like, why didn't you do that?
Right.
So-
Actually, the newspaper ran an article that we had approved it and it was moving ahead. So I think there was a little bit of confusion out there. So
So what do we want to do with this?
I'd make a motion to table this for reconsideration at the July meeting.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll support.
All right, table and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to next month.
John,
Yeah.
I know that it's not necessarily an agenda item, but Michelle did ask when I can take over for the Park Advisory
Okay.
Board. And I just double checked all of my calendars on my phone, on the online. I can attend very likely the July meeting, but I cannot attend the June nor
Okay.
the August meeting. So I don't know if there's, I mean, I know Michelle's got the election going on and
You're trying.
what?
You're trying.
Well, yeah, so I don't want to leave anybody hanging as far as,
Do you want her to take the July meeting?
Yeah, she's gonna
I
have
can-
to.
Yeah, I can go to the July meeting, and I think that unfortunately, this is one of those inconsistent, liaisons that we can't seem to get a full-time person who can, I don't mean a full-time as in you, Michelle, and Patty, but a full-time, liaison to be able to attend.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I have work meetings, night meetings that conflict with it on almost a every month basis. Or I
We can change the date for you.
you can?
Oh, sure.
You can make it quarterly, I'd appreciate it. I mean, at work, not park.
All right, well, let's move on. We
Okay.
have this next one is a text amendment, and this is some housekeeping things that I believe Catherine brought up. And
Yep.
they're just trying to get some consistency in the process for land applications. And basically, it's a simple thing. Did you want to explain anything about that, or did everybody understand that when they read it? And what they're trying to do?
With the,
It's just from 21 days to 28
Oh,
days to
yeah.
make everything consistent.
Yeah, we're
on
just trying to
her-
get
on
everything
her-
consistent. It's very simple.
On all her submittals and what she can tell everybody at the counter. So I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 196-18.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
John, can I
Yes.
ask, and I should have
Yeah,
brought it up
absolutely.
here, but we're talking about getting enough lead time for packets for planning.
Yes.
And maybe this isn't appropriate, and maybe I should have added this to the agenda, and it doesn't, no action needs to be taken, but I think for the sake of the folks who work in this building every day, who put the packets together, who get them online, we need to have some hard and fast rules for applicants and the
so,
reviewers of
too.
documents. I'm not saying any one person in particular, but
2 weeks
we need to
before.
have a cutoff, because if the clerk's office can't get the agenda stuff together until Thursday night to get it up, that's unacceptable. I mean, it gives none of us fair time,
I know
including
that.
people working here every day.
But I think we've been cutting them back quite a bit, right?
Well,
We have,
We've
but
been
this
working
meeting
on
was
that.
just seemed like a disaster. I don't know. It was the holiday. I don't know what it was.
And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying I would support you guys
Yeah,
pushing
I know
a
you told me
deadline.
that. You're just
Yeah.
like, but where's
Right.
our packet? And just everybody was like,
And
everybody.
I get it that it's a runaway, but I
Yes.
mean, but
It was a
but if you're-
runaway train this month.
But if
It
you're
was.
late because you're getting stuff late and you're trying to get it to us, everybody here tries to move things along as expeditiously as
It's
possible.
like the 2 weeks
But-
before it has to be due, and that should be the hard fast rule. And then we're still just like begging people to get us
Well, it's
stuff. or-
because we were all working on the water. She was working on the water, it was an
And all
unusual month.
I guess
for
I just
that.
wanted to say that I'm in full support of pushing our policy and our deadlines so that, if stuff can't make an agenda because
I
you
got
didn't
you.
get it in time,
Just
then
wait.
it can't make an agenda.
Next month.
Everybody knows what your rules or your
Okay.
policies
Yep.
are.
the applicants do.
I
and
would
it's
love to
not-
tell them no.
Right, it's
Sorry.
not fair to you.
It's passed.
And like everything else, there's a
You have to wait.
process.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
clear cut, so.
One of the
Thank you.
things that I've always liked about our staff here and is that everybody is always so accommodating. And I think at some point, by being accommodating, perhaps some applicants are taking advantage of that, and then it's putting you into this spin and everybody who's working here full-time, trying to hurry to get that information into the packet, and it's just not, it's not fair to do to the people who are working here every day and trying to rush through because an applicant dawdled and didn't get it in on time.
Thank you.
No, that makes sense.
Say no.
We want you to.
Okay.
To act in your part, just not.
Okay, we're going to move on to the request for the grant writer for Lyon Township. And John, I think, did you bring that in?
Yes.
Okay.
I sent a little sheet I took off the internet along with that. It gives an overview, but my reasoning is every month in that Power Plan magazine or the MTA magazine, I see all the grants these people are getting. A lot of grants people receive in the paper. And we don't get them because we don't apply for them.
Or we don't
And
qualify.
I don't know what it takes, a part-time, full-time. Maybe that's a good function for the planner that Sean's talking about.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just spoke to Sean.
But I would, we can continue that way if we get a planner that can write grants, I hope. I went through a SEMCOG half-day session once about grant writing, and basically they're telling you that they get, when you put a grant out there, a substantial grant, they get roomfuls of grants. And what they look for is ways to get rid of yours. So they're very fussy about margins and fonts and color and paper and weight of the paper. And you have to know that. And somebody has to do the research to find these grants.
Well, that's an excellent idea, John.
It's fine, we can see where we go with this planner. That would
I
be-
made mention on my document that, if we did either get a grant writer or incorporate it with the planning position, that also the cost could be shared by the township, the DDA, the library, the park, the sheriff's department, and the fire department. Because they would be, in the water department. I'm just saying, all that, if this person that we get, and that person could also do the grant writing, the whole cost wouldn't be, bared on just the township. And if they could research grants for each department, then their time could be spent back on that. I didn't know who put this in the packet, so.
Sorry,
John.
it was John.
Put in there.
So
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to just table it till we see what happens with
Well, that's fine,
planning.
Do you wanna
But
do
it's,
that?
that's excellent.
absolutely.
There are-
Make a motion to table it until we
Oh, okay.
see what happens to our planner.
Okay.
I'll support that.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now the fun stuff. We got some letter of intent to buy the property on Pontiac Trail. And Patty, you want to explain these two letters?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited
She's
about
excited,
this.
and I want her to
I am
do it.
just, you have no clue. I'd like to give you a little history on the property, and we have two solid offers of $1.75 million. This is the Ruggiero property that we received back through tax sale, which means they let their taxes go back delinquent from 2007 to 2011. And the year of 2012, September, we were offered this property after it went through two tax sales, which means we got it back in default, which means we have the right to sell it for whatever we want to sell it for, which is kind of a good gift. But I want to tell you, that did not come without pain, financial pain. So in 2012, our bill back to Oakland County was $750,111.92, just on this one parcel. We have paid 4 years of special on this parcel, which was $538,799.96. For a total, we've put out $1,288,911.88. We still have a remaining balance owed on this property, if we paid it off as of today, of $784,732.05, which gives us a total of everything that we have paid or owed on this parcel would be over $2 million. Selling it for 1.75 what would happen is we would pay off the remaining specials, and the rest of the money, which I would recommend, should go back into the sewer enterprise fund. But a good fact is, and this is the good part about it, is that parcel had 108 RUs. Back in the day, the board gave permission to resell those RUs. We did. Those REUs were resold at approximately $1.2 million. If we sell the property for $175, we will be making approximately, and I don't mean we're making a profit, but we will be putting back into the sewer enterprise fund, making ourselves totally whole for everything. The $2 million after payoff, we'll be making $800,000. So I wanted to give you all those statistics to tell you that accepting either offer would really do us a great service. And that $800,000, remember, every year we're putting $200,000 back into the Southwest Sewer. And this is one of the reasons why. We had to make up that $1.28 million back in the day. So it's really just refueling it, but you want to leave it in the sewer enterprise fund. And we take it as we need it, the $200,000 each year to put it back in. So it really is it's a good offer. Mark Zerlag has been a wonderful real estate person. Every time we didn't sell it, he raised the price. He goes, nope, it would go up. So we brought 2 letters of intent. We met, John and I think Michelle too, maybe?
Nope, wasn't me.
Not you? Okay, just John and I then. The first letter of intent is from, and I'm not sure how you pronounce the name properly, it's the PIRHL. They're a company out of Cleveland, Ohio, and they were doing, like not an assisted living.
Senior
but
homes.
Senior homes.
Yeah.
They do have a little bit of an extension for the contingency period that I was not as happy with, but that's something to consider. I also wanted to tell you that the property is zoned in 2 sections. The front 20 acres is zoned commercial, the back 88 acres is zoned multiple. So then that's some more background I wanted to tell you. The second offer is a letter from Anthony Lombardo of Lombardo Homes. We have not had an opportunity to talk to him about what he wanted to do on the property. You know, is it being half as, that little bit is commercial up front and the back? Is multiple, is he planning on building apartments or a senior? We don't know. We just got this May 31st, so.
Patty, these both say for 17.96 acres. What is the total parcel size?
No, that's it.
We don't know.
Okay.
That
is everything. It's not larger than that. I
no,
thought you
because
said
the
rear.
back. Well, did I say? I
You
apologize.
said
Did I
20
say 20?
acres.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, you
sorry.
said 20
I'm
acres.
sorry.
Commercial,
I'm
I'm
so sorry.
like, what?
No, the front has. Those were REUs. I apologize. I misspoke. The back had 88 REUs because it was zoned multiple. Sorry about that. And the front had 20 REUs. So, yes, it is 17, almost 18 acres.
you ever get
Is
a-
that to the south of Brookway Drive, or is that to the north of Allen Court?
It's south.
Behind Lion Grill.
It abuts Lion Grill.
Okay.
So it's north of Lion Grill. It's kind of like a T.
Yeah.
Almost like a T this way and this way.
Have you ever heard anything about the due diligence the previous suitors have? We had a contract
We've
that
had so many offers on this parcel over the
some of
years.
them we were waiting for them to do their
Right.
due diligence.
Right.
We probably don't get that information.
The only thing I didn't like in the offer from Lombardo was I didn't like that it said rezoning if necessary, and I don't know what he would rezone that to, because we didn't have a chance to speak to him. We just got it on the 31st, and it was Memorial Day, we just got it back, we wanted to get it on this board meeting, so, but you don't want to, I kind of don't want to let the offers go either. That's a great price, and we haven't had anybody in a while be interested, and then lo and behold, we have two. So,
You said the Pearl or Purl?
Yes.
They do assisted living?
Yes.
And care?
yes,
I mean, 'cause I,
and they have,
It's more of a,
Yeah,
you
more of
kind
a-
of stay there by yourself. I mean, it's not really
similar
assisted.
to Abbey Park?
It's
they ha-
similar, but it's more on your own.
yeah,
They're-
and they have
don't
a
have
community center that you can buy a
Oh,
meal
it'd be
there,
Park Star.
say if you
Yeah.
want a meal.
Really pretty
Living.
nice.
It has like a
Living
clubhouse with it. They gave us actually, they have several in Michigan, and I think there was one in Fenton, and he gave us two to go look at,
Brighton,
just
I
to
thought he
see.
had one in Brighton.
Yeah.
Remember the names?
I don't.
I
It was a
guess-
while ago when he
So
came out.
I just, I don't know if you,
And
So
does
that
this-
is their intent, though? I'm sorry, Lisa.
That
is
is-
their
this
intent?
is their intent.
Okay.
We had not had the opportunity to speak to Lombardo.
Right.
You know, I like, this one was cash, and
Farrell?
the
Lombardo.
Lombardo. And their due diligence is 6 months less than the Pearl. That's tying it up for a long time. That's the part I don't like. You know, because again, you'll waste, it's a year from April. It's another whole year. So we have to have it tied up, and then if they don't, we're back where we started, and that's what had been happening to us. We would tie it up for almost a whole year, and then they didn't do it. Then,
And that's
not,
the Lombardo one.
no, that's the Pearl one.
Okay, I'm trying to keep track of these. Then can you
So-
explain then where, it says, the cooperation, while the purchase contract is in effect, that the seller will join the purchaser in the execution of any site plan requested by the purchaser. So do we become the applicant and they just have a,
Like,
like, I don't want it to be another 8 Mile.
oh, no.
Like where we promise a certain number of
I
units.
think we just have to give them permission to make application,
Yes,
really, on property that we
Okay.
own, contingent upon, obviously.
like anybody
completing the
else.
sale,
Yeah,
right.
like any other
Okay,
working development. You know, they don't usually purchase the property to the end. They're gonna
Right.
see what can they get.
so that cooperation paragraph with the Lombardo and letter does not mean that they have a guaranteed site
Mm-mm.
plan?
Nope.
Okay,
And there are no REUs that go with this either, so we're not
No-
going to be, we're
no
not going to be put in a
REUs.
position where
Yep.
we're
Nope.
tied to that, which is
They're
good.
all gone. They're all off the property.
and so
This
then.
comes with zero.
Their density would be what it is zoned at. They're not gonna come back with a,
Multiple, well,
It's already zoned quite.
unless he just wants it to be homes, but
right, but I'm just asking that if I'm just a little worried about that cooperation paragraph. That when it says that we would join with the purchaser in the execution of the site plan and rezoning applications, that I don't want it to imply that we would just give it a free pass on a rezone or on a site plan.
oh, I had that highlighted on my part, also on my paperwork. The rezoning.
Obviously, any sale doesn't come with an approved site plan, but I mean, when I look at the needs of our community now and going forward, it's not for more single-family houses. It's for senior housing, and if that's what one person is coming in with, and if everything else is equal, I mean, there's certainly a need for that, and I think that's a quiet use. There's light traffic, and that's an area where traffic's a concern. I think that really stacks up nicely for that area, and it's already zoned multiple family, so it's suitable for that type of use, senior housing type use.
That's not the Lombardo.
That's correct.
No.
We didn't have we really didn't
Right.
have an opportunity to talk to them to see what their intent was. So, we're being honest, we just didn't
We
get
get a
that.
bidding
Sure,
war.
and I think we could go back and either ask for more money on a deposit from Pearl in order to give them till April of 19, or shorten up their due diligence period as a counteroffer too.
Their
if we don't wanna
product
wait
looked
that
pretty
long.
nice, didn't it, John?
It was very nice.
We
I
liked
mean,
it.
I've been saying all along that
We liked it.
needed to have this type of product, and if that's what their intent is, I feel more comfortable with them coming in with that as their intent. Because I
That's
think
all they
it's-
do.
I think it's
Yeah.
necessary, and it's what I've been saying and what we've all
Yeah.
been saying for quite a while now.
What we liked, I told them you would probably like it.
Yeah.
But think about it, if
Well,
you
my
had.
parents-
She's getting elderly.
Well, no, I'm not sure your parents.
Oh, I thought you
But
were
if
saying she's getting elderly. I didn't know.
But
Now I understand though.
If you
Sorry,
think
Lisa.
about it, in
Denise will
that,
have to walk you
in
out
that
to the car.
spot, they could walk to the library, even though it's not our library, but they could walk there. They could take the path around the corner and walk down to Volunteer Park.
Store.
They could go across the street to Kroger. They could go down to walk down to Tim Hortons.
Eat at
You've
the
got
Lion Grill.
Lion Grill, which is right there.
Leo's.
Yep, Leo's across the street. It seemed like to me that matched. And
They could
like I
ride
said, John and I,
John Deere.
and Michelle, we're gonna
They
take a
could
field trip
drive.
just to look to see,
I'll go.
but it's just not been.
I'll go on a
Yeah,
field trip
that's
with
good.
you.
Oh, yeah, 'cause you
Got a
can-
week left.
Yeah. So anyways,
It's not Mo.
I would really like to have us pick someone because I really,
It sounds like everybody's leaning towards the senior living.
So what kind of a
Wanna get
motion
this
do you want to
property.
make to approve approve the signing of a purchase agreement? And do you want us to attempt to counter some of their terms, such as the period of due diligence?
I would like that shortened.
Well, how would you like it date-wise to read? I mean, I guess what I don't want to do is bind you to where we end up wasting a whole month with this, but
No.
to give you some direction so
Yeah.
you can try to make it better, because
Right.
I'm okay with this if that's what the three of you here every day think. I mean, I would trust you guys, obviously, to negotiate this out, but, I mean, I would make a motion to accept the offer from Pearl.
Can you give us the
Or-
ability to shorten
Yes.
it? Can you give us some ability to negotiate
negotiate this thing.
a few more little things that
And I
we
would-
hear what you say?
Yeah, and I would say subject to negotiation of the deposit terms, not to be any less than what's offered in this purchase agreement, and the due diligence period not to be any longer than what's outlined in this period. So basically giving you the ability to get more of a deposit if it's available, and, or to shorten the due diligence period, one or the other, to make us feel more comfortable with this offer compared to other offers we've been given, was my intent in wording it that way. Is that seem sufficient to you?
Yes.
I'll second.
Mr. Chair, just to
sorry.
Go ahead.
just to clarify that this is a motion to approve the letter of intent. The purchase agreement comes next. That's the next
Yes,
step.
I'm sorry, letter of intent with a
Oh, yeah,
purchase
you
price of
intended purchase.
$1.75 million, $1,750,000. And this, thank you for that clarification, so approving the letter of intent.
I'll second.
Well, I'll just add on that, I guess I agree with what everybody was saying. My big concern, I think Patty's had it highlighted and Lisa said it, was with the other offer, the rezoning.
Yeah, I don't
I know
like
it's future land use, mixed use, and you mentioned the current zoning, so, no, I think this Pearl fits right in over there for their intended use.
And if we get that purchase agreement moving forward, we can, at the next board meeting, we can bring all that information and bring some of that.
Yeah, you
And
guys
maybe
would
even
have
go on
to
that field trip and go see some of this
Yeah.
product.
We'll set it up for whoever wants to come in separate,
Yeah.
you know,
We'd have to
separate
do
groups.
it, yeah.
Yeah, just
Small
in separate
groups.
groups.
Nice to take a look at it,
Yeah.
really.
I have another random question, this is kind of for Leslie on this one. Is this the piece that has a
Yes.
pond?
No, it's got a pipe running through it.
Pipeline running through it.
Pipeline. Yeah.
But wasn't there like a regional stormwater pond or something that, I know we ran something with like Bader and Sons and Lion Grill. I thought there was some,
Bader and Sons discharge has to go through this property.
That's
And
what-
so
okay.
they're supposed to help contribute to whatever the resolution is, but it's kind of up in the air.
okay.
So,
Would they extend water south from Tim Hortons?
Water's already there.
Water's already there.
It's already there.
So is sewer. Yeah, it's on the east side of the road there.
I think we just went in a couple years ago, 3-4 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're good to go.
Right up
This
to the
this could
city.
potentially help alleviate the stormwater out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely is
I
a
think
good
it would be
thing.
good.
Okay.
Over $1 million we borrowed.
Okay, well, as, any other questions? on
Appreciate that.
Okay, we have a motion and support to go with Pearl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on. Our last thing is our policy manual, and we did set that in front of you, and it's quite extensive. So this is the, kind of the final draft on it.
Yep.
And we'd like everybody to take these with you tonight and then mark them up. And then come back and we'll try to get this approved or changed at the next board meeting.
Or approved the way it is if you like it.
Well, it's gonna take some
I know.
reading though.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna take a little bit of work.
I think it turned out pretty nice, but there could be some things to move around or.
Or that we missed.
Yeah.
'Cause we've been over it a couple times. Okay,
Sounds good.
so we'll talk about that at next meeting.
Okay, everybody good with
Sean?
that?
Yep.
Yes, I will make a motion that we enter closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege communication in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268H,
At 9:11 PM.
at 9:11, is it?
Yep, 9:11.
9:11 PM. My computer's 2 minutes slow.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a support for that?
I'll support.
Oh, go ahead.
Have a support? Will you please call these by roll, Kelly?
Patricia Carcone.
Yes.
Don Hicks.
Yes.
Michelle Cash.
Yes.
John Dolan.
Yes.
Christopher Enlow.
Yes.
Lisa Blade. Yes. Sean O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay, 5 minute, sit that and wait for closed session.
We could actually, can we go into the small conference room?